Chapter 13. Night Stay. The door of the house opens as Dam holds the door handle and lets Airdrie in. Airdrie enters the house and looks around to notice everything clean and in place. The previous mess and garbage no more lingering around. Airdrie looks back at Dam and says, "The place looks good." Dam closes the door after stepping inside and looks around as he says, "Yeah." Airdrie looks at Dam and asks, "So where do I sleep?" Airdrie then looks around and points his index finger towards the living room. Dam looks at his finger first, then to the spot he was pointing at as Airdrie asks again, "On the couch?" Dam is still watching as he hears Airdrie's voice. He turns his head around to look at Airdrie. After a slight pause, and with slow steps forward, he responds, "Nah, just take Anne's room. Nobody's using it." Dam turns around once again as he yawns. He takes off his jacket quickly and holds it on his right shoulder. His face looks weary, and he looks tired. Without looking back at Airdrie again, he says, "You'll get the payment tomorrow, I promise." With no other word or waiting for Airdrie's response, Dam walks straight towards the hallway. He walks in the hallway, making his way to his bedroom as he reaches there and opens the door. He doesn't look up at Airdrie, who is watching his movement while he is making his way towards Anne's bedroom. Dam gets inside his bedroom, closes the door behind him. Airdrie enters inside Anne's room as well, and is now lying on the bed. On Anne's bed, Airdrie takes out his cell phone and dials a number. He places the phone against his right ear as he says, "Yeah, I'm still here. He wants me to stay the night. I don't know, but he'll pay me tomorrow. He didn't say how much, but I hope it is enough. How are the kids?" "Oh, that's good. Tell them I love them." "Okay, I gotta go. Good night." "Anne, I love you too. Bye." Anne's room's door is still ajar when he is hanging up the phone. He looks up to see Dam going in the other room, across from his, in the hallway. He notices Dam holding something in his right hand. Before Dam can get away from his sight, Airdrie calls out, "What are you doing over there?" Dam stops in his tracks immediately before he looks up at Airdrie while carrying an ideal lit L bowl. Dam wasn't expecting Airdrie to be awake and watching, but now that he has seen him, he responds, "Oh, I'm just feeding Crystal's turtles." Dam moves forward and opens the top cover of the tank. He looks inside and says, "Yeah, I forgot to feed him today, just like Crystal did when she was here." Dam carefully removes the lid of the tank and opens the ideal lit L bowl. Then he pours some vegetables out of the bowl. The vegetables he's poured out lands near the turtle's face. He watches the turtle as he slowly moves his face forward and starts eating its food. He legit seems hungry. Dam is watching as the turtle munches on its food as eagerly as it can manage given its speed. He suddenly says, "I feel bad for Anne not staying here for the night." Airdrie looks straight at Dam, who is still busy watching the turtle, as he says, "Well, at least he's staying at that motel." Dam says, still sounding unsure, "Yeah, I guess so." Dam finishes feeding the turtle as he stops pouring vegetables in the tank. Dam lifts the tank's top cover from where he had placed before and placed it back in place firmly. He slowly makes his way out of that room and closes the door behind him. Dam looks up at Airdrie to notice that he is still watching him intently. He thinks for a moment before saying, "You know what? We should fix Anne's boiler problem." Airdrie responds without a second thought, "Yeah, we should." Dam looks at Airdrie and says, "Yeah, but we'll probably do it tomorrow, see what the damage is." Dam and Airdrie are quiet. The room is shrouded in silence, and both of them neither say nor do anything. The silence was uncomfortable, and Airdrie can tell that Dam is holding something in. He looks at Dam and asks, "So, do you want to talk about what happened?" Dam's yawn cuts Airdrie's sentence short before he can complete his question. Airdrie gets the message that Dam isn't ready to talk about it, and Dam confirms it by saying, "I'm going to sleep. Good night, Airdrie." Before Airdrie can respond, Dam moves away, and within minutes, he is out of Airdrie's sight. Airdrie looks at his back and says, "Good night." Dam walks towards his bedroom with tired steps, and as soon as he enters inside his bedroom, he closes the door. He walks towards the left side of the bed, but before he can reach the bed, he falls face first on the floor. Lying on the ground, he looks in front of him to see the object that made him trip and fall. "Fuck!" Dam says out of exasperation. With his right foot, Dam moves that object to somewhere so he doesn't trip and falls again. He looks at the thing with frustration and whispers, "Fucking thing." Dam stands up from the ground and finally makes his way to the bed. He slowly lays down on the bed and puts both his hands together. His face holds a suspicious expression. Suddenly, as if remembering something, he pulls something out of his pants' right pocket. He's now holding a small ripped paper in his right hand while staring at it intently. His suspicious expression changes to one of sadness as he stares at the paper consistently. As if he can't hold his emotions inside any longer, he burst into tears, and before he knew, tears are streaming down his face as he starts crying. With tears still running down his face, Dam turns to his left and turns off the lamp. He doesn't want anything intruding on his flow of emotions. He wants to be left alone and can't even tolerate the beam of light from the lamp illuminating the room dimly. The lamp's light is still on and is placed beside a much older man who is sitting idly, reading a book. The book cover has the name and is called Tricksters. From where the man is sitting and reading the book, one can see outside that building. There is a big sign pole outside, and the sign reads, Sleeves Grand Motel. There is another sign at the bottom of the big illuminated sign. This smaller sign read, No Vacancy, diminishing the hopes of traveler and residents who had planned to spend the night at that motel. A vehicle is pulling up by the sidewalk of the building. The vehicle further ahead and comes to a halt inside the Sleeves Grand Motel's parking lot. There are 4 people inside the vehicle: Dam, Airdrie, Anne, and Noah. Dam removes his eyes from the windshield and looks behind towards Anne, who is sitting peacefully at the back seat. Anne looks up at his father as Dam says, "Okay, Anne, this is the place." Anne looks at the motel with a surprised expression on his face, then looks back at Dam before saying, "I don't think I can afford this place? And it said no vacancy." Dam looks at Anne and responds, "You just go in and ask for a room. Tell them that Dam sent you, and they'll give you a secret room for a discount." Airdrie looks at Dam and asks, "What's the discount?" Dam looks at Airdrie and says, "If you mention my name, they'll give you a room for 2 weeks, just for $45.95. Both of them are talking while Anne is still looking at the motel from inside the car. Dam's voice interrupts his thoughts as he says, "Come on, don't be shy." Anne opens the car door. He starts stepping out of the vehicle, but he is having trouble doing so. Dam looks at him struggling and says, "Maybe you should take off that top hat?" Without looking back inside the car, Anne responds, "I got this." After struggling for a few more minutes, Anne finally steps out of the vehicle, with his head ducking out of the car first as he puts both of his hands on top of his head, which was still covered with the top hat. Anne steps completely out of the vehicle and let go of his top hat. As soon as he removes his hands from his head, a sudden strong wind blows his top hat away. Anne's eyes go up in their sockets as he touches his head with his hands again, to feel that his top hat is gone. He uses both of his hands to cover his forehead so that no one can see the bandage on his forehead. The wind is still strong and blowing all the fallen leaves and garbage on the street in the air. Suddenly, all the cash Anne had kept inside his pocket come flying out. All of the money is now blowing in the air, with the wind going in all directions. Anne looks up at the sky with a panic-stricken face. Without wasting another second, he tries to catch his dollar bills with both of his hands, but to no avail. The wind is very strong, and he can barely keep up with the heights to which the wind is taking his money. Anne keeps on trying to catch the money. Rom inside the vehicle, Noah, Dam, and Airdrie are watching Anne struggling to catch his flying bills. Dam quickly rolls down the passenger seat window and shouts out, "Anne, me and Airdrie will help you." Anne shouts back without listening to the entire sentence, "No!" "That's okay. Thank you." Dam hears Anne's answer and shouts back, offering help one more time, "Are you sure?" Anne shouts, "Yes!" Ann quickly covers his forehead with his left hand. He stops jumping and struggling, and just looks up to see all his money flying away to an unreachable height with the wind. He doesn't look away. With his eyes still fixated on the sky, he stands there still, with his mouth slightly agape. He keeps staring at the bright night sky. After a few minutes of staring at the sky, Ann finally looks down, closes his mouth, and makes his way towards the passenger side of the vehicle. Ann is still holding his forehead with his left hand as he is standing by Dam's side of the car. Dam looks up at him remorsefully and says, "Geez, sorry, Ann." Ann shakes his head and says, "It's okay. Money can fly away." Dam looks at Ann and, as if suddenly remembering something, says, "Well, I still got this 50 from the store." Dam puts his right hand in his pants' right pocket and quickly retrieves a $50 bill. He hands it over to Ann through the passenger side window, while all of them are still seated inside. Ann gives him a grateful smile as he says, "Thanks." Ann's right hand grabs the bill from Dam's hand. Dam looks at Ann before responding, "You're welcome." Ann says, "Well, see you." Dam says back, "See you later." Ann looks at Airdrie and nods his head once before saying, "See you, new guy." Airdrie gives a short and curt response as he says, "See you." Ann looks at Noah and puts his right hand out, anticipating that she'll shake his hand. Ann quickly says, "Good night, Noah." Noah looks at his extended right hand, and without placing hers in his, she responds, "Bye." The passenger window rolls up as Ann watches it from the outside. When Dam is done rolling the window, he backs up and drives away, leaving Ann standing at the parking lot. Ann turns around and sees Boiler standing and waiting for him. Before he knows it, a loud scream erupts past Ann's mouth. Boiler smiles at him while holding a big black bag in his right hand. He says, "Hey, Ann. Miss me?" Ann looks at him intently as he asks, "What the hell are you doing here?" Boiler shrugs before responding nonchalantly, "A guy who owns me money was here. I did him a hot favor." Ann says, "Oh, I see." Boiler looks and smiles at Ann's body, while Ann is looking down on the ground. Boiler looks at Ann's hand closely before asking, "What's that in your hand? Money?" Boiler's right index and middle fingers grab the $50 bill from Ann's right hand. Boiler looks at the bill, but he does not look impressed. He looks back up at Ann before saying, "Oh, Ann! I thought you'd do better than this." Boiler waves the bill at Ann's face. His face is holding a serious yet evil expression. Suddenly, without warning whatsoever, he rips the bill in half. He looks at Ann and says, "I want the full amount, not 0.5%. Ann looks at the bill, while it slowly falls back to the ground, swaying lightly with the flow of the air. When the half bill is on the ground, Ann looks back at Boiler. Boiler is still smiling at Ann. Ann says, "Yeah, that's all found, this evening." Boiler and Ann stand at the parking lot for a while. Ann looks at his right, then he looks up and then looks down before saying, "Well, I better go and get your money then." Boiler looks unbothered as he says, "Okay." Ann turns around and walks away. Boiler shouts out to Ann from behind his back as he says, "Try to get all the money tonight, will you?" Ann doesn't bother to respond and keeps moving forward. Ann is entering a park where a homeless man notices him. He walks closer to the homeless man when the man mutters, "How are you doing, man? Good?" Ann sighs and replies, "Ah, good." The homeless man listens to Ann's answer and mutters again, "That's good. God loves you, man." Ann starts walking again as he walks away from the homeless man who was lying at his left. Ann keeps walking ahead as he looks around and sees a lot of people in the park. Most of those people are sleeping on sleeping bags, while 2 of them have sleeping tents and are sleeping rather peacefully inside those. Ann walks by an old lady in beggar's clothes who is sleeping near a streetscape trash can. Ann goes and sits on the edge of the left side of the street bench. While he's sitting on the bench, a guy comes up to him on his left. The guy looks drunk or high, and in his half-asleep state, he slurs, "Hey, that's my bed. You're going to get your ass printed all over it." Anne quickly responds, "Sorry." I. Anne is not able to finish his sentence and apologize when the sleepy man pushes him off the bench. Anne lands at the ground on his behind between the grass and concrete near the left side of the bench and groans. The sleepy man then walks away towards the corner where he came from. Anne gets up on his feet before walking away as well. He gazes around the park in the dark, some more before his eyes land on something. He looks up towards a corner to notice boxes and an old dirty towel lying on the grass. Anne goes ahead and sits by the boxes and starts making a little bed out of the boxes, while uses the towel to make his blanket. Anne is sitting near the boxes when he looks up and notices a lady sitting across the grass from where he is sitting. The lady's legs are crossed on the grass. Suddenly, the park lady is frowning at Anne. Before Anne can ask or look away, the park lady shouts at him, "What the fuck you looking at, faggot?" Anne shrugs and responds, "Nothing, you're just looking at me funny." The park lady doesn't respond for a while. Then she suddenly says, "You remind me of someone." Anne looks at her and asks, "Really? Who?" Anne starts to lie down on the boxes, out of which he had made his bed for the night. The park lady falls silent yet again and doesn't say anything for a moment. She remembers something and says again, "Just a friendly asshole." Anne yawns and says, "That's nice." Anne is now fully lying on the boxes. He drapes the towel on top of his body and covers as much as he can. He starts laying on his right side while trying to get comfortable on the ground and closing his eyes. He hears the park lady's voice yet again. "What's your name?" Anne opens his eyes and looks at her before asking, "Why do you want to know?" The park lady shrugs and responds, "I'm a curious girl." The park lady smiles at Anne, while Anne goes silent for a moment. Then he finally replies, "Anne." The park lady looks confused as she asks, "Like Anne? Like A-N-N?" Anne says, "No, like Anne." The park lady looks even more confused and asks the second time, "How do you spell it?" Anne spells his name for her, A-N, and yeah, it's stupid. A friend gave me a nickname though. It suits my character more than Anne. An old lady from my dad's house nicknames me Anton. God, I hate that name more. And the way she spells it? She spells it with an O instead of an I for tin. What kind of fool spells it like that? That's how you spell it. The O is pronounced like an I, just like Javier. You fucking retard. The park lady giggles a bit while saying, "How did you get a name like that anyway?" Anne scoffs and says, "I don't know. My parents were stupid morons." The park lady looks at him weirdly and says, "Hey, you shouldn't talk about your parents like that. It's not nice." Anne looks uninterested at her advice as he says, "Whatever, they're deadbeat losers anyway." Anne yawned before continuing, "They deserve to rot in hell. Lazy douchebags, mother. Fuckers, by the way. What's your name?" Anne falls asleep soon. He has a nice smile on his face while sleeping. Suddenly, Anne slowly opens his eyes and sees an older lady looking and smiling at him. The older lady notices Anne's eyes are fluttering before he finally opens his eyes. She smiles some more and greets, "Morning." Anne yawns and greets back, "Morning." The older lady asks, "Good sleep?" Anne looks at the older lady and says, Sure." The older lady questions again, "Anything ordinary?" Anne smiles at the older lady with a half-lidded eyes and says, No." The older lady says suggestively, "Anything erotic?" Anne opens his eyes and looks confused before asking, "What are you getting at?" The older lady gets closer to Anne's face and still smiling. Then she says, "I got to tell you, do you always sleep in the nude? Because I like it." Anne groggily asks, "Sleep in the nude?" He lets out a scream as he realizes that he has no clothes on. He covers his crotch with both of his hands, looks up at the older lady, and asks, "How long have I been like this?" The old lady shrugs and says, "Dunno. I just saw you like this. I'm assuming you're like this. It's a great look on you."